This video picks up after the disastrous defeat of the Red Army in the First Red-Blue War, greatly humiliating the current Red government and giving rise to the more proactive FFRU in the aftermath. I'll let this text wall do the explaining. In the first post-war election, the FFRU wins a sweeping victory. This victory is contested by the government, overplaying their hand, and leading into a popular revolt turned coup. Government forces are only able to secure the capital and the surrounding countryside. The capital is quickly isolated and put under siege. Lacking resolve, the government forces began to flee across the river. Seeing their bluff called, the government surrenders the capital, leaving the FFRU as the sole government. Fearing an intervention, the FFRU acts quickly, mobilizing large armies and sending them to the border for defensive purposes. Having no plans to interfere in Red affairs, Blue sends back much of its eastern reserves as a sign of goodwill. But this doesn't deter the FFRU's main plans, only strengthens their position. Red plans a minor offensive in the south to entrap some of Blue's most experienced troops. Despite losing territory and alerting Blue, the offensive was a huge success and had weakened the northern flank greatly. Now, with the pieces set, the main plan could go through, and was likely to deal a great defeat. Blue had fallen for the trap, and the battle was lost before it had even begun. The prepared forces in the north quickly crossed the Stolive River and broke south, encircling 3 of Blue's best divisions. The only saving grace was that 4 lower-grade divisions managed to escape the disaster and were now defending the river line, barely avoiding a decisive defeat. Red quickly uses the freed-up troops to push Blue back to the central hills, but Blue had already fortified this region well. A quick pause in the fighting gave Red some much-needed time to reevaluate their strategy. They decided a quick push into the central plains would open up the front, but the offensive underperforms and falls short of its objectives. To make matters worse, Blue's offensives in the region now threatened to throw Red back across the river, but by mobilizing further, these offensives were pushed back. Still, a situation report was called to review Red's strategy. The report explained the failures of the Central Plains offensive. They didn't have the support of the local people, and overall support for the FFRU was dropping with the failures. But it was overall good news. It showed that if Blue wanted to avoid uprising, they needed to deliver a major victory soon, a major victory that they just couldn't deliver. Red begins plans for one more decisive offensive to trigger a final uprising. But first, they needed to tie up loose ends in the north. After that, troops would amass on the northern sector, and finally, the plan would go through. Quickly, 3 Red divisions broke the line and drove deep into the flanks. But they ran out of steam. They turned north and were defeated, then turned south and saw more success. It wasn't a total victory, but it would likely do the trick, until a stroke of strategic genius saved the day. Out of nowhere, a purple nation had been given independence on the condition that they would provide troops to the fight. This not only kept the civil unrest at bay, but also freed up 3 divisions, solving 2 problems with 1 declaration. These divisions were then quickly put to use on the central front. Seeing this bold new move, Red orders a second situation report. Its results are clear. Win the war quickly, or it won't just be Blue facing popular revolts. It didn't help that the entire Central Army had just narrowly avoided complete collapse. Still, Red saw their advantage being eaten away and wasn't going to just sit by. Despite the growing fatigue, Red High Command was going to gamble it all on the newest round of mobilizations. If it failed, popular uprisings were sure to follow. But if it succeeded, it would shorten the war by years. It all depended on a series of new offensives. First in the north, then in the south, then in the center to send a knockout blow. First, the northern offensive. The break towards the city was knocked back quickly and needed to be bailed out by attacks from the east. Not a great start, but it put pressure on Blue. Blue responded in strength and sent back large portions of the first offensive. Things had just went from bad to worse. The second offensive was also underwhelming. The gamble wasn't paying off. If Red even suffered a minor defeat, it would erupt. But they had no choice. They had to attack. The central and final attack was rushed into effect. If this attack failed, the entire nation would likely go with it. The diversion attack was to drag down forces from the north. However, no forces were moved from the north. The diversion attack hadn't diverted anything. There was now a serious debate on whether to move forward with the main attack. It was a 50-50 gamble on the future of the nation. In the end, they were too deep to turn back now. All three offensives had converged to create a blue salient east of the capital. The fate of the war would be decided there, and by a narrow vote, the plan moved into action. Rapidly, the southern flank buckled while the northern flank remained bogged down in local cities, creating a sort of mushroom-shaped cauldron. At last, Blue's retreat had been too little too late. 4 divisions were captured. The gamble had paid off, and the plains before the capital laid open. This advantage was exploited immediately, and Red forces surged forward. The remaining forces rallied around the capital for a last stand, as we joined the battle at the first capital defense line. The Blue forces abandoned the line to retreat into the city, before turning north and capturing a small portion of Trefiumi. Crossing a local river, officially cutting the city's southern supply routes. They pushed deeper into Trefiumi, attempting to break the line, to no avail. After a short failed counterattack, Red put their sights on a key ridge that separated both city clusters. The attack was a great failure. Crossing the river and charging up the ridge brought a crippling defeat. Still, momentum moved east to Tauflis. Offensives went off there and were met with mixed success. It was becoming clear that Red's momentum was drying up. This only became clearer as a successful Blue offensive sent Red out of Trefiumi once and for all. Red couldn't afford a long, drawn-out siege. They needed a victory, and fast. They started by re-establishing positions in eastern Trefiumi, then to revisit the ridge after extreme bombardment, cross it, and split the cities in two. At last, momentum returned. The forces on the ridge were pushed aside and Tauflis was abandoned. Quickly after, a popular uprising took hold of the remaining cities east of the capital. Now, with Blue broken and defeated, a final attack was to isolate the capital and bring it under control. Seeing the hopelessness of the situation, Blue's president escapes through a river valley. Seeing the abandonment, the forces remaining in the capital quickly surrendered, delivering the final blow. Negotiations begun with Red in a clear upper hand. They not only took back the pre-war borders, but expanded far past them, building a large buffer zone across the river, while ending the short-lived Purple State as a little bonus to the Blue delegation. The treaty was signed without incident, greatly weakening the Blue army. Thankfully, they definitely wouldn't be getting invaded from the north anytime soon. They would spend the coming years preparing defenses and rearming along their northern border, preparing to face off against the ever more aggressive and expansionist Red Empire to their north. This treaty would limit them from making the defensive moves needed, so they would end up unprepared when the invasion turned south. But that's a story for another time.